You're checking in with the doctor for the greatest fantasy baseball podcast in the world, starring your hosts, Dr. Fantasy.
I'm ready to rock and roll today.
And Rydawg.
Harrison Masturbator.
Welcome to Doc and Dog, your fantasy baseball geniuses, presented by the Fantasyholics.
What's up, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Doc and Dog. My name is Jordan Jaika. I am here with my co-host, Rydawg. Rydawg, what's going on today?
What's going on, Doc? How you doing?
Ready to rock and roll, ready to talk some Red Sox today. How are we feeling about the Red Sox?
Pretenders like usual.
So if you haven't tuned in before, we are in the middle of our Major League Baseball mini-series. We are going through each and every roster, breaking down the fantasy implications, going through their lineup, rotation, touching on the bullpen a little bit, mentioning a few impact prospects. So we're going to jump right into it, starting with the Boston Red Sox today. So leading off for them, they have Andrew Benintendi in the outfield. He is currently going pick 107. And you and I have kind of mentioned him in a few other episodes as one of those guys that might provide value at pick 107. In this offense, that should be pretty elite. He should be able to score 90 runs in that leadoff spot, get you right around 15 steals, 15 to 20 home runs. So I think at pick 107, he offers great value. He's going right around guys like Laureano. Zuna's kind of moved up boards, but he's kind of going in the middle of the pack. Robles is pretty close to him, so I really like the value that those outfielders provide.
I do too, and I think people were quick to write him off just as one bad year last year. Benintendi was a highly scouted prospect before he came up to the big. So with Betts gone, he's definitely going to have some higher responsibility to make sure that offense stays hot. So I like him at pick 107 with the upside.
Yeah, and I think last year we kind of saw him at his worst. So even he had solid numbers still, not numbers you expect from him. But if that's the worst that you're going to get, I mean, it's still not bad. So especially leading off in that lineup.
Agreed.
Then right behind him, they have Rafael Devers playing third for him. He's currently going pick 28. So I've seen quite a few debates on Devers, and I actually maybe am in the minority that think that's decent value for him, even though 28's a really high pick. I mean, he did finish as a top 10 player last year. All of his advanced metrics were very elite. He hits the ball hard. He had a 300-plus average, 30 home runs, 129 runs scored, 115 RBIs, finished as the number one overall third baseman. And if you can get a top 10 guy at pick 28, I do think that I guess it kind of depends if you believe in him and that he can put those numbers up each and every year. He's still only 23. I think that he's that elite of an offensive player. And I think he's the kind of guy that if he puts another big year, like similar to last year, you'll be talking about him as a first-round pick next year. So I think he has that upside. And at 28, I'm all about the value, but I don't know if that's great value, but I love the upside that he has.
Agreed. And like you said, he put up first overall for third baseman last year. It's the first third baseman in categories and points, I believe, last year. So anytime you're getting numbers compared to or better in that fact to Arenado, and you can get a guy like that much later, I'm all on board. And that number 2 spot hitting behind Benintendi, he's definitely going to be able to drive in some runs if Benintendi can get on base and lead off spot more. So at that value, I mean, it's not the best value in the world, like you said, but you definitely saw what he has the ability to do last year. So at pick 28, yeah, I mean, I'll take it if he's there.
Then behind him, going actually pretty similar, is Xander Bogaert playing short for him. He's going pick 35 right now, and we've talked about this at length, but the shortstop class, in my opinion, is very deep. When you look at a lot of his metrics, a lot of them were a little bit fluky. Not fluky in a sense that he's not going to be a good player, but he had a huge season last year. I think he's more of a 25 home run, 90 RBI guy, which is still a great season, but I think people are expecting him to put up similar numbers to last year, and I expect to see some regression out of him. So I'm not crazy about him at 35. He's going as one of the top shortstops in all of drafts.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I believe I discussed this in a previous pod. If you're going to take a shortstop, it seems like him, Turner, Tatis, and Story. They're all in that top 4 range of shortstops being drafted, I feel like. And respectively, they should be. But if I'm going to take one of those shortstops early, I want to take the guy that does it all in Trey Turner, just because you're going to get almost 40 steals, you're going to get 20 RBI, 20 home runs, and you're going to get a high batting average in the 280 range on top of it, as well as a lot of runs scored. So if you're going to take one of those top shortstops, you got to make sure it's a 5 category guy, or else you can get the value elsewhere, like you said, in the later rounds of drafts. So I'd hold off.
Yep, I agree with you. Batting behind him in the 4th spot is JD Martinez, who will be their DH. He is currently being drafted 19th overall, which was surprising and not surprising all at the same time to me. I mean, he's as reliable as they come. I'd be very confident in betting he's going to bat right around 300, 35 home runs, 110-ish RBIs. So you definitely are going to put up – he's going to put up offensive numbers. Obviously, he has some great players batting in front of him, so he's definitely going to get those RBI chances. I don't know, 19 just seems, and there's no reason to think that he's going to regress either. I mean, he still hits the ball hard. He hasn't shown any signs of regression, but I mentioned it a little bit with Devers. I look all for upside, and I feel like Martinez is more of a safe pick than upside. So if you're looking for a safer pick in the early rounds, I think he's a good bet, but I don't think his upside is as high as people think.
I agree, and we discussed this actually in a previous pod with Sterling Marte back when we did the Diamondbacks, where we talked about the guys that provide a safe pick, but not as much upside. And for me, I look for upside more in the later rounds. So if a guy like Martinez, who's going, you said, in the late teens, and he ends up falling to me in the next round in the early to mid 20s, I mean, I'm going to take it just because I think that's better value in a sense. And if people are going to pass on it for guys with more upside, I mean, I'm all for it. And I can find upside in the later rounds.
Yeah, definitely. Behind him, batting 5th, is Mitch Moreland, playing first for him. I just have a note. He kind of is what he is. He's not going to hit a ton of home runs. He'll have opportunities to drive in runs, but he really hasn't driven in a ton of runs over the past few seasons. I think at some point they have a prospect, Bobby Dalbec, in the minors that's probably going to take that spot, in my opinion. So not really a guy that I have any notes or that I'm targeting.
Yeah, and look at that drop-off, though, in, like, the huge name base, right? You go from a guy like J.D. Martinez to Mitch Moreland, who I believe hasn't been relevant at all. And when he was relevant in his career, it definitely was with the Rangers. Mm-hmm. I believe that was, like, almost 10 years ago when they had him and Josh Hamilton when Mitch Moreland was semi-relevant. So he's definitely still living off his name from the past when he was somewhat decent. So, I mean, there's tons of first basemen that have proven to be more of a safer with a consistent floor than Mitch, so I'd pass on him.
Yep, I agree. Number 6 behind him is Michael Chavez, playing second for him. He's currently going pick 236, so he has a pretty decent ownership percentage, though, so being drafted as a late-round pick in most drafts. Once again, second base we've talked about at length, but it's a pretty shallow position, so he has that second base eligibility. He'll probably hit you 20 home runs, 60 RBIs, right in that range. So he'll put up numbers, but not a ton of upside, batting towards the bottom of this lineup. So, and with JD Martinez and Mitch Moreland ahead of him, not a ton of speed exactly. So probably won't get a ton of RBI chances, but not really a guy that I would even take in the late rounds.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I mean, I'm gonna get my second baseman in the either or way before that. I would not want to rely on a Chavez to be my starting second baseman. I mean, for a bench spot, if I needed another second baseman just because I only have one rostered, yeah, maybe I'll take a chance on him. But outside of that, I don't see myself starting him or even having the consistent thought that he could be my starter.
Yep, I agree. Batting 7th behind him is Cristian Vasquez, their catcher, currently going pick 204. He's 9th off the board for catchers right now. He batted right around 270 last year. I don't expect him to do that every year, but his average should be right in the 255 range. Hits you 20 home runs, 70 RBIs, so he's definitely a starting caliber catcher for fantasy purposes. Back end going catcher number 9 off the board, but I think he's in a good offense. Doesn't have the greatest guys batting ahead of him, but still in a good offense. And I like him in that spot. I have him as my starting catcher in a few leagues, and I think in that position it's good value for him.
Yeah, I agree. And it's because catcher's so weak. And, I mean, 270 for a catcher last year. I mean, like you say, he's not going to do that again, but that's still very impressive for a catcher. So he is definitely a guy I wish I would like to see in the higher in the lineup ahead of the Chavez's and the Morelands. But I think he can hold his own to the extent of what you need from a catcher.
Then I'll group these next few guys together, batting 8th for him. And this is right now, they don't have Alex Verdugo penciled into their lineup because he is injured, but we'll talk about him a little bit. So batting right now without Verdugo in the lineup, they have Jackie Bradley batting 8th, Kevin Pillar batting 9th. Jackie Bradley, not a ton of upside. He's actually being drafted at a pretty, I don't know if it's name recognition, but he's being drafted at a pretty high rate. Pick 234, so not very early, but still a high ownership percentage. He's had a low average the last few years. Once again, another guy will probably get you 20 home runs, 60 RBIs, but you mentioned it before. You're looking for upside in those late rounds, and he offers very little. Then Kevin Pillar batting 9th. He actually had a really big season last year. He had 21 home runs, 88 RBIs. I still think of him as more of a defensive, minded outfielder. He is probably the guy that's going to lose at bats when Verdugo comes back. So not a guy that I'm going to take there either.
Yeah, I agree. And like you said, Pillar's numbers were definitely really impressive last year for someone that's always been so much about his speed. So I think it's interesting to see if he could possibly take the maybe one of the outfielding spots. Maybe he could take Bradley's at bats more, because I'm not a fan of Bradley as much. If I had to choose one to pick to roster, I'd definitely pick Pillar.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Pillar does have 2020 potential, so if he gets the at-bats, it's not a bad late-round flyer. But when Alex Verdugo is healthy, obviously he's going to be in the lineup. I'm interested to see where they pencil him in. If he's towards the top, I think his value goes way, 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 way up. Obviously he's going to get an opportunity given the circumstances of how they acquired him in the trade. Yeah. We actually had a sleeper article on him probably 6 weeks ago or so now. And so he's currently going pick 224. If he's towards the top of that offense, I absolutely love the value of him there. And not to mention, given that he was involved in the Mookie Betts trade, they have to have a lot of faith and confidence in him, and he's going to get every opportunity to succeed.
Agreed, especially when you deal with a superstar like Betts, you gotta, whatever you're getting in return, you gotta throw them every opportunity you possibly can. So hopefully he runs with one of these opportunities they throw him, because he's definitely going to hit probably in the 5th spot, I would say, because I don't see him hitting ahead of Bennett or Devers, Bogaerts, or Martinez for that matter.
Yeah, I would be really intrigued if they put him in the 2 spot and then moved everybody else down. I think that could be an option, but I think if he's in the 2 or 5 spot, that he offers a ton of value there.
Agreed. It'd be hard to move Martinez out of his respected cleanup role. I mean, I'm intrigued to see where they would pencil him in, though.
All right, that's it for the lineup then. So we will move over to their rotation. And we were talking before we started recording. In my opinion, this looks much, 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 much weaker than when it had Chris Sale in it. It's one of the reasons I think the Red Sox could finish, I think, 3rd or 4th in that division, in my opinion. I even think the Blue Jays have the potential to finish above them, but that's a more crazy opinion than most probably have. So we'll start off right now. Their quote-unquote ace is Eduardo Rodriguez. He's currently going pick 126. I think he offers pretty good value in that spot. I think you can pencil him in a full season. Obviously, it's not going to be a full season, but a normal year, 200 innings, over 200 Ks, an ERA in the mid to upper 3s. So I think you get a consistent player there. There's still guys in that spot like Lament that I think offer more upside, but I think if you're looking for a safe guy, he's going to eat some innings for you. I think he's a decent pick there.
Yeah, I agree. And he's shown some upside last year. So, I mean, a pick over 100, it's not a bad pick at all for him as your number 3 or 4 pitcher. I would take him at that value.
Then actually going through the rest of their rotation, I'm just going to list off these names. I don't have a ton of notes on any of them, actually. I'm not drafting anyone else in their rotation. Number 2 right now, they have Nathan Eovaldi. Number 3, they have Martin Perez. Number 4, Ryan Weber. And number 5, Brian Johnson, who usually works out of the bullpen, but it looks like they might throw him in that 5 spot. So, I mean, those are – people probably remember Eovaldi when he was with the Marlins a little bit. But he really has not had a great career, and he keeps getting opportunity after opportunity, and he's really struggled. So he's really the only name of note, I think, on that list. The other guys are kind of major league average starters. Maybe you stream them in a good matchup against the Orioles, but no one that I'm wasting a pick on.
Agreed. I think I would rather take 4 of the Rays pitchers than I would of any of these Red Sox pitchers. So it's going to be a tough battle for them for sure. Unless they can score maybe 6 to 10 runs a game.
Which they could.
Tough. I mean, it is going to be tough, like you said, to win some games. I mean, I personally have the Yankees and the Rays over them. Like you said, 3rd or 4th, it's definitely looking like it. So, but as far as the pitchers go, I mean, yeah, outside of Rodriguez, I don't think any of these guys are rosterable. I'd maybe take, like you said, the streamer against the Orioles, the Giants, or the Marlins. But outside of that, I mean, I'm passing.
I agree. And their bullpen, their closer this year is Brandon Workman. He's going pick 129. Now, I think that's fair if you're in a league that value saves more than others, I guess I'll say. So he's going kind of the back end of relievers, and the Red Sox are going to give him opportunities to get saved. So it's a fair value. I don't think there's much to say about it.
No, and it's fair value for Workman, like you said, if it value saves. Well, we'll see what happens with that team if he does get as many save opportunities as he did last year.
Yep, I agree. Then finishing up with a few potential impact prospects, I have so their farm system overall right now is ranked 25th. So it's very, very weak. And overall in this division, with the exception of the Rays, a lot of the farm systems are kind of weak. I think a lot of these teams are built to win now. So I'll be interested to see if some of these, over the next few years, the Red Sox have a great offense, but they don't really have any up-and-coming pitching prospects. I think really their only chance is going to be signing a big name that comes through free agency. But 2 of their top prospects right now, Jeter Downs, who they got via trade. He plays second base and short. Realistically, long term, he's probably more of a second base option, just because he's probably not taking Bogaert's spot. So no. He offers some offensive upside. You probably won't see him up this year, especially with a shortened season, but he could be up the season after. Then the other guy I have is Bobby Dalbec. He plays first and third. He's been a guy that's hit 30 home runs pretty consistently in the minors. I expect him to be up at some point this year. We talked about Mitch Moreland not having a ton of upside. And if you have a younger guy that can at least produce what Mitch Moreland does and has the potential for more, why not at that point? So if he does get called up, I think he's going to have a little bit of value in that lineup, especially if he ends up batting in that 5th spot or anywhere even close to the top.
Yeah, I agree. And like you said, the prospect system is meh. And I've heard people really hype up Jeter Downs once he got traded to the Sox. Like we've seen the stories, we've seen the rumors. So I'm not as big of a fan on him. Like you said, he's not going to take Bogaert's spot. And it's a tougher transition than people think to go from short to second. So he might need more work in the minors to transition to that position.
Yep, I agree. Any other notes on the Boston Red Sox?
I think that's it, Dog. How do you think they're going to finish this year?
So I kind of mentioned it before, but I actually think they could end up finishing 4th, only ahead of the Orioles. I have the Rays winning the division, then the Yankees, then the Blue Jays, Red Sox, Orioles. And I think the Blue Jays are probably a little more of a controversial pick there. Maybe I should write about that, but I think their offense offers a ton of upside. I think Nate Pearson's going to be up for the Blue Jays, so their rotation will look better than the Red Sox. I don't think the Blue Jays have the best rotation, but I think that it offers more upside than the Red Sox right now. So and with a weaker minor league system, I'm interested to see. They're going to have to make a big move, I think.
Yeah, they're going to have to sign the next Hanley Ramirez, I think.
Something, yeah. Another Chris Sale.
Maybe, if he's available. It seems like the big name free agents haven't really worked out for the Sox besides Sale.
Yeah,
We'll see what happens. I mean, Pablo Sandoval and Hanley Ramirez, those guys were great for the Sox.
good old Pablo. I love Pablo Sandoval.
Oh, me too. Yeah, so I think I see a 75-win season here. It's going to be a tough road for the Sox unless they make some major moves. But losing Sale, it's going to be bad unless they cancel the season this year due to the COVID-19 and go straight into next season. It's going to be interesting to see how this.
That's probably ideal for the Red Sox.
Oh, yeah, they should propose it to Manfred right now.
I said that about the Mets after they lost Thor. So that's fine. Just cancel the season.
Nationals defending champs 2 years in a row.
Yep. Good for them.
All right.
But yeah, I think that's it for the Red Sox. So thank you everybody once again for watching. You can follow the Fantasy Holics on Facebook. Follow us on Twitter at FantasyHolics1. We also have our website that launched, which is thefantasyholics.com. We have a ton of content, NBA, MLB, and NFL going up right now. So make sure you check that out and make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel.
Follow us.